Welcome to another edition of We're Not Doing a Podcast alongside Mark Weber. I'm Jarrett Least. Now, quite a bit has happened in the state of New York over the past couple of days. Now, for those who are a little bit under a rock, we've been walking outside in a whole bunch of smoke, and the world has been quite different in New York City, especially yesterday, where it looked like we were in Mars, to be honest. That was absolutely remarkable to see. Mark, how has your experience been with all the smoke and all the craziness that's been going on in New York the past 24, 36 hours?
It's weird because we're just getting out of the whole COVID stage where you have your mask off outside and then your mask on inside. Now, once we've gotten out of that, we've reversed it to where you have your mask off inside and your mask on outside. Instead of looking for restaurants that have good outdoor space, you're looking for restaurants that have good indoor space and are not near a window. The whole world has just completely flip-flopped, especially if you're living in New York City, and it's absolutely craziness. It's getting a lot better. Hopefully it clears up literally for the weekend, and that's what you can hope for at this point.
The funniest thing about all this is you have so many people posting videos. Stay safe, stay inside, don't go outside, as people are smoking vapes, people are inhaling terrible things for them. And as pretty much we walk outside in an absolute shithole on a daily basis. I mean, we breathe in people pissing on the streets, people shitting on the streets, garbage all over the streets. So New York is always an interesting place. And the past 24 hours certainly have been that. Now, getting into topics regarding New York sports, a team that has really made me just want to set myself on fire these past few days. That's the New York Mets. They are a whopping 30-32. Things are just going absolutely terribly for them right about now. They've lost 4 straight games. They've lost another series to the Atlanta Braves. Probably going to get swept again. Mark, try to talk me off the ledge off this ridiculous, terrible baseball team, please.
Well, first off, I just want to mention and say that there's just a lot to live for other than baseball. And it's simple. Sure. Yesterday, when you texted me about the Pete Alonso injury, I personally was watching a John Mulaney stand-up bit on Netflix. It was excellent, by the way. I know I sound very late to it. I was in Italy when it came out. I completely forgot about it. It was on my emails of things to look at in the future. I had so many personal emails that I ended up closing out of it and completely forgot until a friend mentioned that he had a Netflix special that came out in recent months the other day, so I watched that instead. There's a lot to live for other than baseball because I'm going to be honest, it really is very bleak for the Mets. Through 62 games, they're under 500 for the first time since SteveCohen bought the team. Yeah, there are positives. Pete Alonso is still really good. He got hurt in that game, but he is still playing. It's not a major IL stint. There's still Brandon Nimmo. Lindor is hopefully talented enough where he could turn around. And regardless of how they've done so far this season, where they've looked like average pitchers, you still have Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander in that rotation as a Mets fan. So there is that. But other than that, it's pretty bleak.
That's funny you mentioned it, Mark, because I have the game on in the background right now. And sure enough, to avoid the sweep, Justin Verlander just gave up a 2-run homer to Austin Riley. So just when we say everything can't possibly go wrong, it sure as hell does go wrong for this team. And quite frankly, everything needs to change. Everything needs to change. This team plays with zero effort, zero heart. They play with no intensity. They come to the ballpark every night like a bunch of sad puppies. They're absolutely pathetic. It's time to DFA Daniel Vogelback. I can't watch this fat version of Jimmy Neutron anymore. He is absolutely driving me crazy. But they put him in the lineup every single solitary day. And you have billyeppler, who needs to be fired today. I cannot have Billy Epler handle this team when it comes to the trade deadline, because what will happen? He'll probably trade for another version of a Darren Ruff or a Daniel Vogelback. And when it comes to Buck Showalter, he's just been asleep at the wheel all season long. He has completely worn out his welcome on this team. Everything right now is just going so poorly for this Mets team. And the saddest thing of it all, as I just mentioned before, this team, they don't even look like they give a shit. It is just absolutely infuriating to watch this team on a daily basis. And I'll go ahead and say it. The season's over. This team is going absolutely nowhere. Would you agree with me on that?
I think it doesn't look good for the Mets. And I'll tell you why. I mentioned that this is their worst record through 62 games in the SteveCohen era. But another reason why it hasn't been looking good is you're talking about a bottom half team in Major League Baseball in terms of hitting, pitching, and run differential. Negative run differential, negative 16 going into today. That's really bad. That is not a playoff team. Unless you're going to have a turnaround like the Miami Heat did in this year's NBA playoffs, it's very rare to spin it around and make it any better than that. The one positive thing is the Mets, they're still in the wild card race, 2.5 games out. They're in third in their division. Not only are they trailing the mighty Atlanta Braves, they're trailing the Miami Marlins, which, if you look at the payroll difference, is just tremendous. It's really looking bad for the Mets, but I don't understand, and maybe you could explain it better, why Billy Epler seems to be on the same scale and pedestal as Buck Showalter.
Look, I think I would put Buck in a higher regard than Billy Epler. I think ultimately what this team needs to do at the end of the season is clean house, because Billy and Buck are tied at the hip. But when it comes to Billy Epler, he has to go. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, Billy Epler's here just to ensure that they have the possibility of getting Shohei Ohtani. Quite frankly, I will sacrifice firing Billy Epler if that means you're not getting Shohei Ohtani. Because look at the Angels with Ohtani and Trout, the teams that he built. He builds awful rosters. He must go immediately. And I think the key and the hope for this team is SteveCohen's got to give a blank check at the end of the season to David Stearns from the Milwaukee Brewers when his contract is up with them, because there's no hope for this organization unless you have a legitimate baseball executive running this team, because we're seeing just how poorly constructed this roster is. It really doesn't matter how high the payroll is. There are holes everywhere up and down this roster. So this team has so many holes to correct, and I don't think it's going to be able to get done at the trade deadline. What do you think is the biggest area of need right now for this team if they're going to try to make moves coming at the trade deadline?
I think it comes down to Buck Showalter. I mean, I think that's the more concerning thing for Mets fans than Billy Epler. Billy Epler was kind of thrown in there. He was their third GM in probably, a year? It was just a mess since SteveCohen bought the team. And it just shows that SteveCohen really didn't change this franchise around like he promised. And that 5-year window that fans were really banking on, they're hoping it's a 25-year window at this point. I mean, that's where it is for the Met fans. But I do think it's Buck Showalter because, listen, I don't believe your take that players come to the stadium and they're not 100% wanting to play. I think that's ridiculous. These guys are professional major leaguers. They want to play. I think the problem lies with Buck Showalter not playing the young players when he should, not making certain adjustments, and just having this philosophy maybe that you say where they seem a little lethargic. And I think making those changes throughout games could help. I mean, yeah, it doesn't help that Edwin Diaz got hurt. Yeah, it doesn't help that Max Scherzer had his issues. Yeah, it doesn't help that Justin Verlander had his injury issues as well. But you still have guys like Francisco Lindor struggling, the struggling mix of not playing the young players when they could. I think it comes down to Buck Showalter. I don't know if you fire a guy that brought the season that they had last season, but How can you not at this point? That's the issue to me.
Certainly a lot needs to change with this Met team. Probably needs to start with just letting these young kids play every day, see what you have in a guy like Mark Vientos. Beatty's been playing, Alvar's been playing. Just see what they all got. Bring up Ronnie Mauricio. It really feels like it's a transition year for this team. But transitioning now to another team in New York who things don't look quite great right now, but not anything overly alarming.
Like
New
the
York.
Mets.
Exactly. When it comes to things less alarming, it's always the Mets and everyone else. But now when it comes to the New York Yankees, a little cause for concern. AaronJudge, he's on the IL for the second time this season with what appears to be an injury that could keep him out a little bit longer than the initial injury that he had earlier in the year. This is a toe sprain. It's a tricky situation. The Yankees really don't look like a very good team without AaronJudge. Mark, do you think the Yankees can at least tread water in the time that AaronJudge is going to be out?
No, I'm going to make it as simple as that. And I'll give you some numbers why. Without Judge this season, 6-8 record, 214 batting average, 277 on base percentage, 1.2 home runs per game, 3.6 runs per game. With AaronJudge this season, 30-19 record, 240 batting average, 312 on base percentage, 1.6 home runs per game, and 5 runs per game. You're talking about a 5 runs per game versus 3.6 runs per game differential, 30-19 versus 6-8. That is humongous. The Yankees, if they don't get AaronJudge back soon enough, it's looking very bleak. Maybe not Mets bleak, but very bleak. That's been my word of the day is bleak. I don't have a word of the day calendar, but I should, and that's the word that would probably be on there for today. Or that's the only excuse that I could have for using the word bleak so often.
That's the state of New York right now. A lot of things are bleak in terms of the air quality, the smoke.
That's what they call a transition in the business, Jared. That was a good one.
That's what makes this podcast phenomenal. And what also makes this podcast really good is a guy like you, Mark, you bring a lot of stats, a lot of numbers, and a lot of good nuggets to the equation when it comes to backing up your points. Sometimes I just like to talk out of my ass. And
sometimes you always love to talk out of your ass.
And
you don't do any preparation. You just read the posts, you read Twitter, and then you go, this is what I care about, and that's what we're talking about. I'm amazed AaronJudge and the Yankees made it this far in a episode that you're hosting. I'm actually shocked. I dropped my phone when I saw that AaronJudge was the second topic, and it wasn't something to do with the Jets. Honestly, good for you, Jared.
And this is why when it comes to the Yankees and without AaronJudge, I think they'll be able to at least tread water and still be a playoff team. They'll be one of the wild card teams without him. They're not winning the division because the Rays are just an unstoppable force, but this is where I'll just talk out of my rear end. The Yankees always
Even though I just gave you the numbers showing how poor this team is without Judge this season.
But honestly, the Yankees, they win 90-plus games with their eyes shut. That's what makes them a great organization, despite the fact that you get so frustrated with them, rightfully so. You have high expectations for them to win a World Series every year, and that is the standard for the New York Yankees. But in the very, very short term, this Yankee team, I think they'll be able to play a couple games around 500, maybe be a couple games under 500. But right now they're 9 over. And I think they'll be able to tread enough water to where they will still be one of those 3 wildcard teams to make the playoffs in the American League. It's not good enough to go on and win a World Series. That's a totally different conversation for another day, which we've had. The Yankees are not good enough to win a World Series, but right now, I think this team will be able to just tread water because history always shows the Yankees always win in the regular season and they always find ways to make the playoffs. And that's why I, as a Met fan, am jealous when it comes to the Yankees because it's just a rite of passage. The Yankees snap the finger, 90-plus wins every year. The Mets, it just doesn't happen. So
do you think SteveCohen regrets his decision? Do you think that he regrets not taking the wallet out for the Yankees, the team that his childhood friends claimed that he really liked as a kid, and buying the Mets, who were at a discount. I know SteveCohen is a brilliant investor, and I know that it's very important to look at things at a value discount, but sometimes you got to pay a premium, and this is why.
That's kind of funny how you mentioned it, because that's kind of been the conspiracy of the past few days, that SteveCohen was a closet Yankee fan growing up. And
well, he was. His childhood friends said they never heard him talk about the Mets. I mean, he said growing up he went to games in the Polo Grounds. They played 2 seasons in the Polo Grounds. What are you talking about? Jared, your family is filled with Met fans. Have you ever heard anyone talk about the Polo Grounds?
Well, when it comes to my family, yes, they're mostly Met fans, but I am the lone psychopath who watches them on a daily basis and tortures myself. But look, when it comes to SteveCohen, to answer your question, does he regret buying this team? 100% he should regret it. He dropped $2.4 billion on this shit. First off, he's not making any money. I mean, the attendance isn't all that great. People don't show up to the ballpark in droves. They don't win on a consistent basis, and they never will win on a consistent basis. And what brings in money? Winning, winning, winning. And the Mets just don't do enough of it. And he dropped $355 million on this year's payroll, for goodness sakes. And this team, we're talking about being able to crack the National League wild card and try to catch a team like the Pittsburgh Pirates. It's just an absolute mess. So, yes, to answer your question, SteveCohen probably should regret buying the New York Mets. But look, I give him credit. He's trying to do whatever it takes on his behalf to have the Mets win, but it honestly just doesn't seem like anything is working when it comes to the New York Mets. Some things work out a little bit for the New York Yankees. Now moving on to a team that we hope things will be working out in a big time way.
Or else Jared's gonna have a coronary.
It's so true. It really is very true. I don't know how I'm going to be able to make it till football season. So, but yeah, moving on to football, the New York Jets, things are going pretty well right now. They've got OTAs going on, and a big name that just became available, Dalvin Cook. The Minnesota Vikings are planning on releasing him or trading him if they can't trading him or releasing him if they can't find a trade partner within the next 24 hours. So, Mark, I'll ask you this question. Do you think the Jets should consider pursuing Dalvin Cook to add to their backfield?
Of course they should consider getting Dalvin Cook. I mean, you're talking about one of the better running backs in the league, and this could be a steal for other teams. Now, we don't know for sure where he'll be going because it seems like the Dolphins and the Broncos are the favorites. But the thing is you don't know where the Jets are really with running backs. Yes, they have Breece Hall. Yes, they have Michael Carter. Michael Carter will be going into his 3rd year. Breece Hall, hopefully his first full season in the NFL. It'd be nice to have a veteran presence on that roster, and it'd be nice for that guy to be Dalvin Cook. I mean, let me just read off some of the numbers for him in the last 3 seasons, for example. Dalvin Cook, 4.7 yards per attempt, 88.4 rush yards per game, and 33 total touchdowns in 44 games over the last 3 seasons. That is a guy that is an elite running back in this league. That is someone that is a home run runner, which is something that Jared always stresses when teams are looking for NFL talent at the running back position. Dalvin Cook is absolutely someone they should go for. And it kind of reminds you of the Jets a few years ago, the last time they were in the playoffs when they had Sean Green and they picked up LaDainian Tomlinson. Dalvin Cook is so much better than LT was when he came to the Jets. Absolutely. Likely not going to happen just based off the reports that we're hearing, but it would be great.
I definitely agree. And if you can add more talent to this roster, why not? But I'll take a little bit of a different approach as to why I think the Jets should go after Dalvin Cook. And that's more for a guy like Breece Hall. It's expected. Breece Hall is going to be ready for week 1, but you don't want him carrying the ball 25 times a game right out the gate, weeks 1 through 6, you want to slowly build up a guy like Breece Hall to where this guy is rocking and rolling come playoff time, to where he is an absolute monster come January and hopefully February. That's how I'm looking at this potential Dalvin Cook addition, is to benefit a guy like Breece Hall. I'd compare Breece Hall also to a starting pitcher also. Let's say a guy like a Justin Verlander who's coming off a Tommy John. You want to slowly build him back up in the months of April.
Yeah, but there's a major difference between that, Jared. Justin Verlander is 40 years old now. Breece Hall is going to be a second-year player in the NFL. It's a little bit different of a situation.
But what I'm trying to say is you don't want Breece Hall having to carry the load September through November. You want to slowly build up his workload so when by December, January, February, when the Jets should be playing very meaningful football games, Breece Hall is that true home run hitter that we saw at times in his rookie season. And I think Dalvin Cook, he can carry the load for this team early in the season. And then when Breece Hall's fully back to 100%, you've got a tremendous duo in Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall. And don't sleep on also a guy like Izzy Abanikanda. I'm very high on him. They drafted him in the 5th round in the NFL draft. He's got tremendous speed.
And he's from Brooklyn.
And he's a Brooklyn boy. Izzy, I love the nickname Izzy. Izzy getting busy. So, look, add Dalvin Cook. I would be in favor of it. And get more weapons for this Jet team. Let's bring in all the firepower for the New York Jets, because this is an all or nothing season for this football team. I'm all in favor of the Jets bringing in Dalvin Cook. Now, moving on to...
Well, I just have one more question for you. Why not bring in Ezekiel Elliott? Why not Ezekiel Elliott? He's still a free agent. The Jets do need a veteran running back. You can't go with all these young guys. Zeke's still available.
Yes, he's available. I just think Dalvin Cook's, at this stage of their careers, is a significantly better player than Zeke. Zeke, I just feel, is just really a goal line back. If you're on a 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, you need short yardage gains. That's all, in my opinion, Zeke can do at this point. Dalvin Cook still has some juice left. Now, I do think he is trending downward, Dalvin Cook. I don't think he's going to be this all-pro running back. If you were to bring him in, he would be a very good complement to a Breece Hall. But comparing Dalvin to Zeke, I don't think it really is much of a debate. If you're asking me who I want, the answer is Dalvin Cook, because I think Ezekiel Elliott's best days are behind him.
Yeah, but they're both top 15 running backs. Dalvin Cook was a top 5 running back, definitely based on approximate value in the last 3 seasons. Ezekiel Elliott's not a bad backup plan, and they still do need a veteran running back, like you mentioned. I don't think it could hurt. He's a free agent, and the value of him is just really going down in terms of what they could get him at with the market. They could get Ezekiel Elliott for a good price. And if they strike out on Dalvin Cook, maybe it motivates them to get a guy like Zeke. Come on, let's eat, Jared. Let's eat.
I think on the ranking of available running backs, there's actually a couple of other running backs who are available. You got a guy like Kareem Hunt, who's on the market still. I would take him over Zeke, even a Leonard Fournette. I'm not high on Zeke. I just think his best days are way past him. I mean, if that's the only option, I guess, why not? Those short yardage plays are important. Don't get me wrong, but I think there are some better options on the market right now for the Jets than a guy like Ezekiel Elliott. So it'll be interesting to see what the Jets do, because they do have a decent amount of cap space. They could definitely make some moves in the coming days and weeks. Now, speaking of money, boy, oh boy, is this story an absolute monster one that has happened over the past few days. Quite frankly, the biggest story in all of sports right now. And that is Live Golf and the PGA Tour coming to an agreement on a merger that just shocked absolutely everyone. And this is where our segment of With It or Not With It comes into play. Mark, I ask you, who is not the biggest golfer in the world, quite frankly, you don't golf at all, does this merger make golf with it or not with it?
Not with it. I know you're going to hate this. Not with it. The story itself is with it. A bunch of golfers leaving the PGA to get more money from a bunch of Saudi investors, and then the two leagues merging into one is very with it. Everybody and their mothers is talking about the PGA Live Golf merger. I think the last time people talked about golf this much was when Tiger won the Masters in 2019. The event itself, not with it. The story with it.
The story is with it. And now this is where me as the big time golfer, I think it's with it because Mark, you and I last year, we went to a live golf event at Ben.
Are we really making this public? We're really going to make that public that we did?
Hey, we went. Hey, we got to disclose Mark Webber and Jared Lee's activities. We went to a Met game last week. So last year we went to a live golf tournament. I don't give a shit what anyone thinks of me. So hey, it's all good.
And maybe you're trying to get that Saudi sponsorship money. So kudos to you. As long as you cut me a break, I mean, hey, sure, why not? It was a great time. I'll say that.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because there's when it comes to people when it's saying, oh, I really can't support the live golf tour because it's funded by this money. This is where hypocrisy just comes into play with everybody. So I don't need to get into that whole conversation. It's just spinning in circles. It just doesn't make sense. But this is great for golf because you need the best players in the world on one tour. You can't have guys like Brooks Koepka, who right now at this point is the best player in the world, just coming off winning the PGA Championship. You need him playing in the same tournaments year round with the likes of a Rory McIlroy, Justin Thomas, Hideki Matsuyama, Will Zalatoris, who, I mean, a guy like him has to be just kicking himself. He turns down $100 million to stay on the PGA Tour. And meanwhile, all these guys are coming back to play. But look, right now, the whole thing is just such a total unknown. This deal that occurred, it was like a succession type deal. It's basically four guys who came to an agreement on this merger. I mean, the chairman of Live Golf, Greg Norman, doesn't even know about it. Rory McIlroy, who's been the most outspoken guy against Live, he didn't know anything about it. It was just Jay Monahan, the PGA Tour commissioner, two other guys, one guy from Saudi Arabia, who basically now is going to be controlling all of golf. There's so many moving parts, and this deal just happened within one night. It really is just fascinating to see how golf is moving forward. But when it comes to guys taking the money, this is going to be great for golf because everyone now will be able to make more money. So I think it's good all around.
Let's spin it to one question, and I didn't get to ask you this because I think I was saving it for the pod. What are the two things that you want from Live Golf to transfer to the PGA Tour? Because I think the best example of this merger, granted one wasn't founded by the Saudis, was the ABA-NBA merger. And what came of that? Two of the things that have made the NBA great since the merger, the dunk contest and the three-point line. What are two things that you hope could be those things from Live? Because I definitely have my answer from going to an event.
Now, as someone who loves golf and loves to watch golf, I know you asked me for two, but my answer is nothing. Honestly, I hate everything about the way the Live Tour is conducted. I don't like the 54 holes. It's just not competitive. No one missing the cut. That's a joke. And I'm a traditionalist. Guys should wear pants. Guys should wear pants on the tour. It just felt like when I was watching a live golf event, when guys were wearing shorts, it just felt fugazi to me. So I would take nothing from the actual rules of live golf and implement it onto whatever the new tour is going to be, because there needs to be a competitive aspect to this. And it just didn't feel that way when I was watching any live golf event. And I just, quite frankly, had to tune it
How
out.
many live golf events were you watching?
I watched two and they were just terrible. It was just, it was not competitive golf. It was just so bad to watch. That's why.
Can I give my answers and maybe that'll change your mind?
Sure.
The shotgun start and the music on the course. The music on the course will get a lot of people who are in that withered crowd to get into golf. And the shotgun start, when done right, that first CBS broadcast is going to make beautiful TV. That is a director's dream, that shotgun start. It is so cool. Terrible when you're at the event because it's just all these golf balls flying in the air at the same time. But you have the music blaring and they all go. That is going to be picture perfect if you're a director of a CBS or any television broadcast for the first combined event of the two.
Sure, for a casual or limited golf fan like
But you're talking about what makes it with it or not with it, Jarrett, not for what entertains Jarrett least.
Yeah, music. If music was playing for 4 hours during a golf event on CBS in the middle of July, would you be more in tune to watch it, Mark? Really? Would you?
You have like Tiesto playing, that'd be pretty cool. Or if you have like the W Hotel mix playing, just some soothing, syncy music, club vibes, hotel lobby vibes, that would be cool. It doesn't need to be like rock and roll. It doesn't need to be Taylor Swift blaring. Just give me the W Hotel mix and I'm happy.
That wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. It would just.
Now I'm changing your mind, and I like that.
No, I still disagree because it wouldn't work at all. Because I mean, when you have these golfers, when they're on the tee box and they hear a smidgen of a sound, they'll turn over and be like, guys, what are you doing? I mean, you got a guy like Bryson DeChambeau who loses his mind when he hears a pin drop. So it wouldn't be terrible. It just wouldn't work. Maybe the shotgun starts could be put into play, but I don't see it happening. And
didn't Bryson play in the live golf? So clearly it didn't affect him that much.
He played terribly, though. He was terrible. He was so, I mean, I feel like he didn't finish at the top at any of these events. I mean,
he didn't have to worry about getting cut, so who cares?
Well, exactly. And look, those guys, they took the money and now they're going to be able to merge back in on competitive golf events. So that's the biggest thing. It's a win-win for everybody. Golf is going to have one tour, which I'm excited about. Maybe they'll get some music on. Who knows? I know that's what Mark wants to see if that happens, but I don't think that will likely happen. Time will tell, but it is certainly a fascinating story to keep monitoring throughout the days and weeks, the Live and PGA Tour merger. But that's going to do it for us. For Mark Weber, this is Jared Lee signing off. For those in New York City, stay safe. Try not to breathe in too much smoke. Maybe I will because I can't watch the Mets much longer. Good night.